Hello, Southern California sport fishing and weather fans. It's Chris Dunn, the fishing weatherman, with a long-awaited update. It's the SoCal update dated June 28th, 2023. We're heading into the holiday weekend, 4th of July, and we have a hurricane in the eastern Pacific. The first one of the season. We'll talk about Adrian and also all of the wind that we've had as of late, affecting the bluefin bite and sometimes not really affecting the bluefin bite. And as we head into the 4th of July, traditionally in decades gone by, that was kind of the start of the albacore season. There are some rumors and rumblings of some albacore out there, way out there. We'll just have to wait and see if any of those show up. But first, I want to get to the wind situation and also the hurricane situation. This is Adrian off the coast of Mexico. This is way down there, way below Cabo San Lucas. I have the cursor right on Cabo, the tip of Baja California right there. It's actually farther south than the Revejedo Islands, south of Socorro Island right now. Where is it headed? Out to the west and away from all land masses. Now, two questions you might have. Where is this headed? That answers one. It's not headed here. Two, is it going to push warm water up in our direction? And the answer for that is no. These storms don't push warm water in our direction, contrary to popular belief. They follow the steering winds, the steering currents, and the water currents that bring in warm water help to fuel these storms. So if one of these storms does get a little bit closer to SoCal, it's probably more an impact of the steering winds and also warmer than normal waters, and the water's been pretty chilly around here as of late. Here's the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, and again, it does have it moving out to the west as a hurricane and then eventually dissipating as a tropical storm and as a tropical depression by this weekend. Here's the intensity guidance, and right in here, this is the next, say, 24, 36 hours. It does maintain hurricane status, but all of the model guidance, it just kind of falls right down, and that indicates a weakening storm. Everything in that green zone right there, that is tropical storm strength, and all indications are that it will be rapidly losing strength as it gets into an area of cooler water and perhaps a little bit more wind shear. Speaking of the wind, we know there's been a lot of wind around here. The reason for it is because of the opposite weather pattern that has been going on in other parts of the country. You may have heard on the news about the big heat wave in Texas and Louisiana with that big ridge, that big dome, the heat dome that's been sitting over Texas. Well, we have the opposite of that. We have this dip in the jet stream, or this trough, and whenever we have that around, that tends to deepen the marine layer and also strengthen the offshore winds. Now, this is upstairs. This is about 18,000 feet up in the air, but what happens up there has a bearing on what goes on down here. So I want to show you and kind of walk you through how our weather is going to change as we head into the holiday weekend. This trough will be replaced by a ridge, and as we go through time, this is through Friday and into Saturday. This is Saturday evening, and we're sitting right underneath the center of that ridge, centered on top of California and Nevada. That's going to do two things. One, it will really increase the temperature on land, especially in the deserts. And two, it will cause the wind to calm down, or the surface gradients are going to relax a little bit. So not nearly as much wind as we head into the weekend, especially on Saturday. I think Saturday is going to be the pick of the weekend. But then as quickly as that ridge builds in, it's not going to be a long-term deal. It starts to move off to the east, replaced by another one of these shortwave troughs that moves into Northern California. This is Wednesday of next week. So on the 4th of July, this is Tuesday right here, we start to see that transition take place again. So we transition back to a little bit of a breezier period and a little more of a deeper marine layer. Like, we want more of that. I know. We've had a lot of the clouds around. So that's what's happening up top. Down closer to the surface, I want to show you the surface wind speeds. This is actually the 10-meter wind speeds, unaffected by the surface friction, or not as affected by the surface friction. This is starting out on Wednesday, the 28th of June, when this recording was made. Everything that's in the green is 20 knots or greater, and you can see a big green blob off of Northern California. And as we go into, this is going to be Friday afternoon and into Saturday morning, there's an area of white here. Our corresponding wind scale here is 4 knots or less if it's white. There's just very little wind. And that encompasses all of the Channel Islands. We can draw a line from Point Conception all the way down to below Ensenada, and a lighter wind, much lighter wind situation setting up for Saturday. A lot of wind. We'll call it Brookings, Oregon, and Crescent City down to Arcata and Eureka. So Northern California, the Oregon coast, a lot of wind, and that windy situation will actually continue on through the 4th of July. This is Tuesday. Breezes start to pick up, but not terribly windy. Not a super windy blowout situation. Now, and again, this is big picture and long term. So we're not talking specifics. We're not drilling down to exact hours and exact days. And especially, once you get past 5 or 6 days in a forecast, it's really tough to drill down to some of those specifics. But then getting into the weekend after the 4th of July, again, a whole lot of wind off the Northern California and Oregon coast, and not quite as windy around here. So that's the way it looks on the forecast models on the maps. What I want to show you now is what's going to happen as far as specific points. So we can take a point on that map and kind of average things all together and give you a graphical presentation of what is expected and kind of blend some of these models together. That's what the website SailFlow does, and I have these posted on my website. Anacapa Island, for example, as we go into the weekend, it's not bad at all. Up to about 10 knots of wind through the weekend. Things looking pretty good. A little bit farther out on the outside, San Nick, we still have a fair amount of breeze Wednesday, Thursday, but that also coming back down for Saturday. So if you want to get out and perhaps hit San Nick on Saturday, some of those outside spots, probably more prudent to do it in a bigger boat. Saturday would probably be your day with that wind on the outside starting to pick back up the Outer Channel Islands. Horseshoe Kelp out in front of Los Angeles, Long Beach, kind of a typical diurnal pattern, which in the morning it's calm. In the afternoon, the sea breeze kicks up. We have a fair amount of the marine layer clouds around day in and day out. It's going to be minor variations to that pattern, but kind of a typical routine of what we would expect for late June and early July at the Shoe and points around down to Huntington Flats and up to Palos Verdes and Santa Monica Bay. San Clemente Basin Buoy, this is the point that I kind of use as a good gauge for what's happening in the offshore zone close to San Clemente Island, straight out from Mission Bay, about 50 miles or so, 45 to 50 miles. So this is a really good indicator of what's happening in that offshore zone. And the wind, we've seen a real big improvement today, and that improvement will continue through Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you have a trip planned, maybe heading out Friday night, fishing Saturday, coming back Sunday morning, I think you're in fine shape. A little more of a breeze starting to pick back up again, as we saw in some of the forecast models, and this is a forecast model and a graphical presentation, but not terribly super duper windy, 10 to 15 knots on the wind getting into Monday, and occasionally we'll have some gusts up around 20 knots or greater. The swell forecast, this is a product that I've had on my website for a number of years now. They still show it as an experimental product, but it is very valuable in showing you the wave height, the anticipated wave height across the Southern California bight. So this takes us from Point Conception down below San Diego and all of the Channel Islands here. And as we head through Friday into Saturday, you start to see those darker shades of blue in the corresponding scale, 7, 8, 9 foot swells in the green, but then that darker blue shading, 1, 2, and 3 foot swells. So the trend is for that typical northwest wind-driven swell to really start coming down. And we're going to find, say, 2 to 3 foot swell in that area. And that also corresponds to some of the text forecasts that the National Weather Service puts out on a regular basis. And you can find those updated text forecasts on my website at thefishingweatherman.com anytime you want, because the internet is open 24/7. All right, we'll get to the weather headlines now. Hurricane Adrian, it stays to the south. It's not going to be a player for Mexico. It's not going to be a player for us. Bluefin, some yellowfin mixed in the offshore zone as well, and yellowtail. And how about that barracuda bite down at the Coronado Islands? The holiday weekend looks great at this point. So if you have plans, I hope you do well and enjoy your holiday weekend. And of course, if you're heading out there, as always, good luck and be safe.